When churches began switching to virtual services in spring 2020, few people imagined it would take more than a year to begin reopening doors to in-person worship. To hear one church's experience with this sometimes difficult process, let's welcome the Reverend Dr. Myron McCoy, Senior Pastor at the historic First United Methodist Church at the Chicago Temple. We also welcome Erik Nussbaum, the Chicago Temple's Director of Music and Art. So Reverend McCoy, when did the church switch to the virtual worship services, and what was that process like?
It was something we had not expected and immediately had to get into. And that's when we went to the Go For meeting. And it just so happened that maybe that Tuesday we purchased that service.
Wow, so that was kind of a big change for this congregation. And I should, in full disclosure, say that I am a member of this congregation, longtime member of this congregation. And so it was a big switch from going from in-person to online. And I think the congregation actually did pretty well with it. Do you think so?
Surprisingly well. We found ourselves learning on the way. And so there were different things we did not discover, such as we had not felt comfortable in doing music on Go For meetings. So that meant initially a cappella singing with no musical instruments behind us. But I think just the idea of being able to gather in the midst of people knowing that we were isolated and being alone at home and could not go out, it was important just to feel connected.
What were some of your major concerns when the church went virtual, and have any of those concerns been realized?
Well, certainly one of my concerns was those who were not with technology connected. And we chose the Go For meeting because of the telephone ability to connect with members who may not have computers. And that was part of our looking at even going to GoToMeeting. We knew that folks could telephone in and hear us. And we thought it was important, if nothing else, that we be able to do that. So we were learning on the go and running by the seat of our pants. But it was important to be connected right away with congregation members.
Erik, can you talk a little bit about the music ministry and how you handled all of that, and especially with the choir, considering that early on in the epidemic, there were some choirs in other places that were causing super spreaders of the coronavirus at that time. How did you handle this transition?
Yeah, we learned that it was a hard thing to hear, that singing can be dangerous. Of all the other things, singing could be most dangerous of spreading the coronavirus. As Myron said, we switch, and I guess that was the hardest part at the beginning. Is I'm so blessed in our music ministry. We have committees that we meet twice a week, so with all the people that I shepherd and in our different ensembles, we're so lucky that we get to see one another every week. And the fact that stopped, I was really, I was just after emotionally just like realizing we're not going to see one another for longer and longer and longer. I really tried my best to keep our flock together and remind everyone that you're not alone. In fact, that's our stewardship campaign for this fall, is you're not alone. We're still a church family. Another big transition was really for about a year, from August to August, we went to Zoom. And that's where we switched from like a cappella simple singing online to recording for services. and getting back into the sanctuary. So that was a big step where different members of our ensembles, from the gospel choir, the bells, the strings, and members of the choir and section leaders could, in very small groups, wearing masks, could come back to the sanctuary, and we could record music with Philip, our organist, to a higher level again. And so that was a source of creativity, and kind of one aspect of our new virtual lives as a congregation that was new to us is drawing the circle wider. When we first started last August, our YouTube channel had about 27, 28 subscribers. Now we're close to 300 subscribers. From August to August, just last month, we started to sneak back into in-person, but over that year, from August to August, we expanded by 250 subscribers to our YouTube channel and Facebook as well. So that was a way of reaching new people. And that was just one of the positive signs of this new virtual world, for sure, is that our congregation was changing a bit. But still, amongst all that, I really have always kept at the forefront of my thinking that I want to care for my flock and the people who are part of our church, and remind them that this is still home. Even though they just see us on the recording in the sanctuary, this is still their home too.
You became somewhat of a music video producer during this time.
Couldn't have done it without Pierce Fetters, our director of children and youth ministries and family ministries. He's incredibly technically savvy and learned all that really quickly. And so Piers administered all of the Zoom services pretty much without a hitch, little maybe microphone glitches here and there, but he adapted quickly. And, all of us have changed our job description. Yeah, I learned a lot. I learned how to use my iPad and iMovie a lot, but it also allowed me to take little pictures of the stained glass and, share little parts of our church in the videos in certain ways. And, but yeah, we couldn't have done it without Piers as well.
Reverend McCoy, how and when was the decision made to resume the in-person worship services?
We kind of followed the science. We learned after a while some of the things that they had initially told us to be fearful of, like touching books and different things, and even wiping down pews after different folks come in was different. I think we really geared ourselves up to letting others jump in first, but letting them be the canaries, and then us coming in afterwards after we felt more comfortable, and being a downtown church where it's possible for folks to come in from just off the street who may not know of the congregation, and visitors from out of town coming in to visit. We wanted to be more cautious in opening the church.
And what do the worship services look like now, and what kind of precautions are you taking for the in-person worship services?
Well, one of the services certainly are not quite as large in terms of attendance as they once were, but we're making up for a lot of that with persons who are streaming in and persons who are looking at later YouTubes. And I want to say we also have a number of folk who are watching through Facebook Live. It is interesting to me that just as we've opened up, many of the persons whom we captured while we were virtual have come in, are some of the first ones to return to the sanctuary. Several have joined the church, and it's been wonderful to see some of those that I've seen on the screen who are now coming in. Unlike many other churches, we did not just film a Zoom and show you a video. We took the time of doing each actual service. So the preaching was always live. The prayers were always live. And so that meant it gave our people an opportunity to see one another as well, even if they only saw the names of persons who didn't want to be seen.
And what kind of precautions are you taking?
Some of the precautions we're taking is certainly everyone has to be masked up as they come into the sanctuary. Sanitizer is there, greeted at the door. We have reduced the number of, it has changed the way we do administer communion. It has changed the way that we collect our offering. And as we learned with our virtual services, which we knew that attention spans were shorter than live services, we have adapted services that are shorter than they were when we were in person. Also, in terms of ventilation, we have opened up our fans so that the air is circulating in and out faster than it would have normally.
Well, sadly, not to mix politics and religion, but there's been kind of a major political divide over the mask mandates and restrictions on in-person gatherings and worship in particular. Do you think that this has reflected poorly on organized religion and somehow prolonged the pandemic and the time that it took for us to get back together in person worship?
Persons have gotten mixed messages from politicians, not so much from this area of the country or even in our metropolitan area, but across the country, they have gotten many mixed signals.
Final question for both of you. What are you looking forward to for Sundays at the Chicago Temple? And you can even look ahead to Advent and Christmas.
One of the elements of the plan is surprise. We think it's important that all worship experiences provide some sort of mystery. Therefore, I can't tell you everything that we're thinking about, but we want them to look different, but also to actually be familiar as well. Mm-hmm. And we're going to, just as we honored the season of Advent in last year over Zoom, we're going to do the same thing. I don't know how we'll do Christmas Eve this year. One of the things that the virtual dimension did, it provided a chance for us to involve everyone and to see the diversity of the congregation in a way that they couldn't see if they just came to an individual service. So we'll have to work on how we do that moving forward.
Okay, sense of wonder. How about you, Erik?
I think it's both internal and external. There are aspects of life in our church that I'm looking forward to being revived and just continue to be as creative as possible in our worship space itself, to use the whole space and have music everywhere in the sanctuary, in a sense, and just to continue to involve everyone musically, but also with that visual element, in terms of presentation, to make it livelier and just more energetic. So I think there are some internal aspects of our church that I'm excited about and looking forward to, just the potential for creativity. And then externally, tonight, for the first time in a really long time, another aspect of my kind of wider community connection with the city is hosting events like the Chicago Humanities Festival. Since July, back to internally, we've also had many other sacraments like memorial services and weddings and baptisms and new members joining. So those sacraments that are part of the church welcome wider people. But tonight there's a musical group that I've hosted called the Bach and Beethoven Ensemble. And they needed a space to rehearse. So I'm happy to be able to open our doors and welcome a group back who needed some place to practice to get ready for a concert. So that's very much one of the ways that I connect with the other artistic entities and organizations in the city, is by hosting concerts and rehearsals. It makes me think of Silk Road, and imagining having them back again, and the different types of people that they bring into our building. So there is a lot to look forward to.
Jan, the other thing I want to say is that it is different now in that we are ministering to a congregation, both who we see inside the church and also who may be worshiping with us, who might be at home. And so it's quite different. And so we have to think of elements of worship that speak to both those who are there and those who might even look at us at a different time.
And Myron, the people at home are the people on both ends of the spectrum at life. Elderly people who maybe have a hard time getting in, and all of our children. And there are many of our families who, their children can't get vaccinated, they're exposed a little bit more. And so, the most needy people, our youth and our elderly, our seniors, they need the most care, and they might be some of the last people coming back in person. So you're right, it's caring for those people too who can't be here.
And many young parents who do not want to get exposed and get their children exposed.
Yeah.
It's still something that we're trying to juggle.
Our thanks to Reverend Dr. McCoy and Erik for joining us today. I'm Jan Meyer for Different Drummers in the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.